Nobody in the NASCAR garage is saying the word cheating out loud. But after Denny Hamlin's third straight win, everyone is asking the same question behind closed doors. The mood inside the garage changed the moment Hamlin crossed the finish line at Pocono Raceway on June 14, 2026. This is no longer just a points race story. According to multiple reports, drivers and team officials have begun approaching NASCAR directly, pressing for a deeper look into Joe Gibbs Racing and 23X Racing. The accusation itself has not been spoken aloud by anyone involved, but the suspicion is sitting right there in the open, growing louder with every week that passes. Start with what Hamlin pulled off on the track because the numbers are remarkable on their own. Across 21 years in the Cup Series, he had never strung together 3 consecutive wins before this stretch. Nashville came first, then Michigan, then Pocono 3 in a row. The Pocono result alone gave him his 8th career win at that specific track, a number no other driver has matched there. His number 11 Toyota crossed the line just 1.678 seconds ahead of Tyler Reddick's number 45, the product of a tense fuel conservation battle that lasted until the final lap, with nearly every car in the field watching its fuel gauge instead of racing flat out. That win pushed Hamlin's career total to 64 Cup Series victories, enough to move him past the late Kyle Busch and into sole possession of 9th place on the all-time wins list. One additional number stands out above the rest. All 3 wins in this streak came after Hamlin started from the pole position. Nobody had managed that 3-race feat since 1981, when Darrell Waltrip last did it. Hamlin now joins a list that includes Waltrip, Bobby Allison, and Richard Petty, 3 names already enshrined in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Hamlin's car passed post-race inspection without any issues, and the result became official, but 6 other entries were pulled aside and sent to the NASCAR Research and Development Center in Concord, North Carolina for additional checks. The cars belonging to Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, John Hunter Nemechek, and Tyler Reddick. Being sent for extra inspection does not automatically mean a car broke any rules. NASCAR pulls cars for further review on a routine basis throughout the season. Still, the list of names selected and the timing of it was enough to keep the garage talking long after the race had ended and the haulers had packed up. The standings tell their own part of the story. Reddick walked into Pocono with a 51-point lead. He walked out with just 19. The narrowest margin between the top 2 all season. With 10 races left before the 16-driver playoff field locks in, Hamlin's streak has completely rewritten the championship outlook heading into the back half of the year. Reddick did not hide his frustration afterward. "It's a bummer," he said. "If the 11 wasn't the winner, you could consider this a good day. I know we finished second. Scoring the points we did just didn't get the job done." He also pointed to a late race scare with a tire going down on a restart as part of what cost him valuable time on track. What happened next moved the conversation away from the race results entirely. Word began circulating that several drivers and team officials were taking their concerns straight to NASCAR, not through public statements, but through private conversations behind the scenes. Their request, a closer, more thorough inspection of cars, fielded by Joe Gibbs Racing and 23X Racing, and a harder look at exactly what passes between the 2 organizations. To understand why, it helps to rewind to earlier in the season. Tyler Reddick opened 2026 with 4 wins in his first 6 starts. At Darlington, his car suffered an alternator failure, needed a battery swap mid-race, and even lost cooling in his suit, yet he still found a way to win. That kind of result, despite mechanical trouble that would have ended most drivers' afternoons, was the first thing that made people around the garage pay closer attention. Fox Sports analyst Kevin Harvick weighed in on the run at the time. "Confidence and speed are hard to beat," he said, pointing to the team's stability, the strength of the Toyota package, and Reddick's development as a leader. You can't beat fast cars, and Tyler Reddick has stepped up to be able to deliver on those fast cars. Most of the garage was willing to accept that explanation back then, chalking up the early season dominance to simple performance. Hamlin's win streak changed that calculus entirely. The manufacturer breakdown adds more weight to the suspicion. Toyota has claimed 10 of the 16 Cup Series races run so far in 2026, and Joe Gibbs Racing alone holds 5 of those victories. A single team and manufacturer dominating week after week is exactly the kind of pattern that invites scrutiny from the rest of the field, especially from teams running different equipment and watching the gap widen. The situation is complicated further by one detail. Hamlin is not only a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, he is also a co-owner of 23X1 Racing, partnered with NBA legend Michael Jordan. The two organizations operate under a long-running technical alliance, sharing resources and equipment in a setup that exists in various forms across the sport. But according to a source cited by ESPN, the relationship between Joe Gibbs Racing and 23X goes beyond what exists between any other two teams in the sport, a detail that has not gone unnoticed by rival organizations. This is not the first time Joe Gibbs Racing has been at the center of a cheating-related dispute. Earlier this year, the organization itself accused a rival team, Spire Motorsports, of stealing data through a former JGR competition director who left to join the smaller outfit. That case ended up in federal court, with JGR alleging stolen intellectual property gave Spire an unfair edge after years of struggling for wins. The irony has not been lost on people inside the sport. A team that once accused a rival of stealing performance secrets is now the one facing whispered accusations from across the garage. Two names keep surfacing as the ones pushing hardest for answers: former champions Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. Their frustration has a clear trigger point. On lap 46 at Pocono, a multi-car wreck swept up Keselowski, Logano, Bubba Wallace, and Shane Van Gisbergen, all in the same incident. That crash alone effectively ended Keselowski's and Logano's playoff hopes in an instant. Keselowski fell to 17th in the standings, while Logano dropped 21 points below the cut line, a brutal swing for two drivers who entered the race in playoff position. It is worth being precise about what Logano and Keselowski have actually said. Neither has publicly used the word cheating, and neither has formally accused either team of wrongdoing. Their stated request is narrower, more rigorous post-race reviews, stricter part checks, and closer oversight of what gets exchanged between technically allied teams. With the playoffs closing in and their own seasons on the line, their reasoning is that thorough inspection is the only way to settle the question for good, removing any doubt before the postseason begins. Bubba Wallace, who drives the number 23 car for 23XY Racing, was caught in that same lap 46 incident. Wallace has a reputation for speaking openly about nearly everything that happens in the garage. On this particular topic, though, he has gone unusually quiet. A veteran member of the garage noted that silence is out of character for him. And the unspoken question now circulating is whether Wallace would have stayed this reserved if a different team, one he was not personally connected to, were facing the same scrutiny. Both Joe Gibbs Racing and 23X1 Racing have firmly denied any wrongdoing. Their response points to the inspection record itself. Every car has passed checks throughout the season without a single rules violation tied to performance. Hamlin showed no concern when asked about it after the race. "I would certainly say it's the best we've been," he said. We come to the racetrack every week knowing we got a great shot to win. The team's doing an amazing job giving me exactly what I need in the car every single week. That's why we're winning." There is a personal dimension to this win streak that goes beyond the track. Hamlin nearly stepped away from racing altogether this year. He lost the championship in last November's season finale, and then, in December, his father died in a house fire. He returned to competition carrying that loss and has somehow performed better than ever since, turning personal tragedy into one of the most dominant stretches of his career. His current contract runs through 2027, a season he has already said will be his last. Asked about a possible extension, Joe Gibbs Racing co-owner Heather Gibbs did not rule it out. "It's hard when you dangle checkered flags in front of him," she said. 3 wins in a row have a way of making retirement talks complicated." NASCAR itself has not escalated the matter. There is no formal investigation open, no penalties on the table, and no public findings to point to. The sanctioning body has declined to comment on Joe Gibbs Racing or 23XI specifically, repeating only that every team faces the same inspection standards and that additional checks can be ordered at any point for any car regardless of who is leading the standings. The number 11 car's win has not been challenged and remains official on the record books. The playoff bubble, meanwhile, keeps tightening with every race that passes. Shane Van Gisbergen holds 14th place, just 10 points clear of Brad Keselowski in 17th. Eric Jones and Austin Cindric sit in 15th and 16th, only 4 points above the cutoff line separating a playoff spot from missing out entirely. From here forward, every finishing position carries direct playoff consequences for the drivers caught in this tight cluster. Christopher Bell is racing through a different kind of obstacle. A broken left wrist from his crash at Michigan, a hit registered as one of the hardest in the history of NASCAR's current car model. He led 18 laps at Pocono on a fuel strategy gamble before slipping back to a 26th place finish after running out of fuel just short of the finish. Certainly, we were mired back in the 20s, so I think it was an amazing gamble, he said afterward. His schedule does not get easier from here. Next up is the brand new Anduril 250 at the Qualcomm circuit on Naval Base Coronado in San Diego, the first NASCAR race ever staged on an active military base, followed by a road course race at Sonoma. Both venues require constant gear shifting, which puts direct strain on his injured wrist for back-to-back weekends. One last detail adds an unusual layer to this win. Hamlin's Pocono victory landed almost exactly 20 years after his very first Cup Series win, which also came at Pocono on June 11, 2006. Hamlin himself pointed out that this was technically his 9th win at the track, not his 8th, since he was stripped of a 2022 victory there after his car, along with teammate Kyle Busch's, failed post-race inspection. "They aren't getting that checkered flag back," he said, closing the book on a win NASCAR has never restored to his record.